You're listening to the new WCEG Network on WCEGTalkRadio.com. Click Livestream tab or watch us live on your smart television, YouTube, WCEG Network. I am Damita Chatman, your show host of Take a Stand for the next hour, where the Worldwide Community Empowerment Group, where we speak life into the community. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, add us on Instagram at WCEG underscore talk underscore radio at WCEG Network. The last but least, this is the disclaimer. The topic and opinions are those of the show host and guests and not WCEG Network. Thank you for your continued support. Hello, hello, hello. I think I got the baddest folks in Georgia right here. Representative Schofield, Representative District. What district you represent, Rev Schofield?
60, which includes parts of East Point, College Park, Forest Park, Southeast Atlanta, and Hayesville.
And I got the bad woman from Clayton County, Representative Scott. Come on, what district you represent?
I represent District 76, which serves Clayton and Henry County.
All right, and then I got Mr. Joe Flint. I call him the watchdog. Come on, Joe Flint.
Joe Flint's what they call me, all one word, like a Tribe Called Quest. Thank you, Damita, for having me on the show today.
And we gonna have Mr. Lee Cox. He's gonna call in. We got another guest. She's not in yet. Again, thank you for coming. And today we're going to talk about a bill that's so important. I think it's very important. And it's the correction policy for Georgia correction, the prison. And so Representative Schofield is carrying that bill and sponsoring that. So could you tell us a little bit about that bill?
Yes, and thank you, Damita, for having me here, and thank you to my colleagues and new friends. The Prison Reform and Accountability Act was a bill that came about because of the number of concerns and stories we heard about basic prison human rights violation that Representative Scott, myself, and others had been getting calls and emails about. We knew that not only is this a problem, but it's been an underground issue, that there was no accountability being had in the prison system, and the number of deaths, murders particularly, human rights violation of just basic human rights like water and edible food and things that have been done in the prison system. So this bill really does restore some accountability, some measures of accountability back within the prison system. You know, things like making sure that there is data collected and reports are given to the Georgia General Assembly and other agencies and departments that need to be responsible for oversight. We want to make sure that people who have, even though we have a whistle protector law, there are still people that work in these within the prison system that are seeing violations going on. And all of a sudden they are being penalized or afraid to come forth. So we've got to create a pathway of transparency in the prison system.
Absolutely. Now, what Representative Schofield, I did a little research, and in Georgia, just Georgia alone, we have 5 standalone federal prisons and 2 federal prison camps. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then
yes.
We have in the correction, we have 34 state prisons across the state, which house about 52,000 felonies. Could you tell me some of those that they say felony? Because anything can be a felony. I don't know, but carrying a weapon, that's a felony, right?
Right.
So could
right.
you tell me out of the 52,000, what kind of people that you see incarcerated right now in the prison system?
Well, there are just people in the prison system that have had undue process. There are people in the prison system, and I'm not going to give numbers because I don't want to be misquoted, but there are just a number of people in the prison system that no matter how many people you have in there, the violations and the inconsistency of human rights is the issue. So when you tell me that you have things like you can't get a toilet flush, but once every 10 days, imagine the not just the smell, but the health implications behind that. When you're telling me you're a woman that's been incarcerated and you're getting 2 period pads when you're on your cycle, that's not acceptable to me. When you're showing me the food that you're eating has maggots and there are things in your food, those things concern me more than just what you've done to get there and stay there. We know the system has never been fair and equitable. But once you're in there, we have an obligation to make sure that these prisons are adhering to not just federal, but state guidelines for human rights issues. So the number of people that are in there are felons range from, murder to drug possession to you name the gamut.
Wow.
Gang
Representative
affiliation.
Schofield,
Mhm.
please forgive me for cutting you off. And Damita, I just had to jump in here.
We're probably gonna ask the same question, so you go on.
What Damita, gave an outline of the number of, prison systems that we have. And you mentioned some of the oversight committees. Well, who's overseeing them? Because if these types of things are happening and, they're not being reported in a timely manner, and it's happening, clearly it's been happening for a while, hence the reason there's a bill, now being brought forth for it. So how is this? I guess I'm just really thrown by the fact that the oversight committee was already not doing their job. So how are we going to ensure moving forward that they're able to do what they need to do? And the follow-up for this is, how many of these, and Damita, you may have this there as well, but how many of these prisons are privatized?
Right. So therein lies the problem, that you've had this going on for so long where the oversight is not being given oversight. And how we've gotten to this point that's my question when I first came into this space of hearing all this story. Well, who's minding the shop? And if those that are minding the shop, where are they in this? I've not met them. I've not heard them. Who can I go to get some answers and some resolve? What I found that there was the people that were supposed to mind the shop, which should be a governing agency, are no longer, they're not engaged in this level, or there's a level of protection of what's being done wrong, and no accountability to, if I ask questions and I want documents, as a state legislator, I should be able to get that information without any backlash, recourse. I mean, you're shaking your head, you would think. But when you start to become so secretive about getting basic information, and you go to a prison and can't get in because they need more time to clean and whitewash and paint over the molded walls and plug all these holes, then I have to ask the question, okay, who really is running this?
Absolutely.
The governor has no accountability. He's not involved. The commissioner is in the space. So who's over him, and where are they when grievances need to be? So we have a gaping hole in this state about authentic oversight, accountability, transparency, and honesty, which is why I stepped up, my colleagues stepped up, because no longer is it going to leave us scratching our head and saying, who's minding the store?
Representative Scott, you come on and chime in on that and give me your perspective.
Well, Ms. Chapman, I think my co-host said it all. There's no one minding the shop, and we always say follow the money. It's a lot of money being put out there and put in. The system get a lot of state funding to run the prisons and the jails, and we know firsthand that they're not being monitored at all. It's no accountability whatsoever. So they are led by talking about privatization of our facilities. There's a lot. And we have one representative constantly ask for Georgia to stop paying private prisons here in the state of Georgia. On the federal level, they started trying to remove private prisons out from this federal budget, but we know that the state is heavily run by private prisons. So what we have to do as legislators, continue to ask those hard questions about the privatization of our prison system, as well as looking to, like Representative Schofield say, the inhumane treatment that is being done to inmates that are in these facilities, because there is no oversight. There's no oversight whatsoever or accountability for their actions. And I will go on to say, we see that now that it's coming out more and more, but we constantly can read on the internet, and you constantly get letters from inmates' families talking about the treatment, and you constantly seeing a prison have been killed, a prison have been stabbed. You saw that probably a couple of weeks ago down in Savannah, and we just start looking inhumane in the things that are going on in these systems. We must get some type of control into our prison space, into our jail space, because we know that a lot of people, they may have done wrong, but they still have basic human rights and needs. And I think representatives have spoke about that, and that is what we are trying to do: get some accountability in place for these for the jail system.
Right, thanks. Now let me ask you a question, because Representative Schofield said something, and I want to make sure I heard. You say they food have magnets in it?
Maggots.
And women only get 2 pads.
In some cases, there are women that are getting just 2 period pads when they're menstrual products when they get on their cycle. Now, in 2018, we passed a bill that protected women in prison to make sure that there was money in the budget for them to get period products. Why that's not being done, and it's being controlled by their staff. And we don't, it just cannot be that. So now just imagine you've got a number of women that are incarcerated, that are on cycles at different times. Just imagine the stench that's in that place. Imagine.
I don't even want to imagine.
But we've been told about the sewer system that's being flushed every 10 days, where they're walking through and it's at the bottom, that they're walking through sludge and stench, and it's at the bottom of their clothing. I mean, these are, again, human rights issues. The last thing I'll mention was a situation where a woman had given birth, and she had her stitches and episiotomy in her, the stitches being done. They started becoming infected. She went to the medical facility. They told her that there was nothing they can do. She asked and begged, could they give her at least some antibiotics? They said no. She was forced to go back into her area, lay back on the bed, use a glass, a mirror, and some fingernail clippers to cut out her own stitches. You cannot, I don't care what the level of a crime you've committed, you are still a human being. You still have a family, and you still have a state that has to protect your basic human rights needs.
And that's all we ask. And that's all we're asking for, is for people that are incarcerated to be treated like humans. We know that they may have done wrong, and some of them have done wrong in there, and some of them may not have done anything wrong. But regardless, once you get booked in and you're an inmate, you need to be treated like a human being. These are not animals. These are people, and they have families too, and they need to be treated as such. That's all we're asking for, is for people to be basic human rights and to be treated like human beings. That means if a person is sick, that's why we have medical dispensaries inside of the jail facility, so that they will be able to go to the clinic and get the medication that they need, if it's for a headache or whatever the situation may be. And we know that females have female problems, and they could range from a host of things.
Right.
a host of things. And even the women that are in jail, they still need breath exams. They still need pap smears. They still need all of those things. They are human and they deserve to have them. They deserve that basic right to have a pap smear. Definitely when they're experiencing complications and problems, they need that. And that's all we're asking for, people still to be treated like humans.
So let me ask you a question, Representative Scott, because I know you can keep it going with me, but let me ask you. This is where I say we need to hold our politicians that's being elected in these offices accountability, because somewhere that money train is going somewhere. I'm not saying all the Republicans getting the money, but somebody's getting the money. So that's why I say we need to be mindful. We need to be watching. Do you agree with me, Joe Flint?
I'm just, you forgive my expression, I'm just floored by the information that I'm hearing here about, what's taking place with the people. But of course, Damita, I agree with you 100%. There needs to be listen, we've heard this our whole lives, follow the money. Where I guess I've had the opportunity to visit a prison, and I have, to be very transparent here, I have 2 or 3 relatives who are currently in prison. One of the things that I was thinking about as you were talking about is the conditions of the prison and how deplorable they are. Now, I've been deployed overseas in Afghanistan. I've seen third world countries at their greatest, and I say at their greatest, but which is at their worst, really. I've seen it at their worst. And I have seen inside of some of the prison systems that it's like being in a third world country. And I know that there's, some believe, it shouldn't be comfortable for them. But to the point that both of you all have made, Representatives Schofield and Scott, they're still humans. And because of this, they should be taken care of in a human form. I don't understand why I'm really floored by this. That there are females not being able to have the sanitary products that they need in order to, take care of themselves, or that there's sludge and stuff on the floors. Who of you all, with this bill, who goes and visits these prisons? Who is on the oversight committee? That's really my question. Who's on the oversight committee?
And again, that's where the secret lies. We're trying to get those answers as to who and when was the last time. Where are the reports of the last time they were busy? What are the sites? What's been cited? I mean, surely this is not something we're hearing for the first time, because it's been done for
how much power, and I use the word power, but how much authority does your office as a state representative, as an official of the state of Georgia, who makes the laws and, all the things that go into play, who provides the money for these prisons, how much authority does your office has to go in to say, hey, I want to see this right now?
Well, we should have the authority as again, representative of the states, but you saw what happened at Lee Arundel. So that we came there and we were not allowed to come in. We had to make an appointment. So we have certain bills.
An appointment with who? With the warden?
With the warden. Yeah, we had to get on the list like everybody else. That should never be the case. It was a clear indication that you hiding something. Remember when you were young and company comes to your house, your mama said, put everything in the closet.
That's right. I still put stuff in the closet now. Don't feel bad. I still put stuff in
Eventually, when I come to the house, there's always that one aunt that gonna try to go in the closet and see what you got in.
Right.
All right. So magnify us by that. We have the authority as representatives of the state that do pass bills and legislation that we want, and we should have oversight into being able to go into, if there's a reasonable doubt, then we should be able to take a stand and walk in to represent the people that we are elected to serve. Now, that being said, and that didn't happen, again, puts us in a position that we have to write stronger bills and pieces of legislation that would demand that certain things come to us, like some the reporting end of this. So you asked the question, yes, we have an oversight, but where are the reports? The legislators should have access to these reports. It shouldn't be hide the needle in the haystack and we're trying to find things. there is got to be a
Real quick,
sense of
Damita.
Uh-huh.
Representative Schofield, Scott, and Damita, do you all know who are there any elected officials who serve on the prison board in Georgia?
Yeah.
Good question.
Yes. Yes, they do. There are, I'm not sure, Representative Scott, if we know if there are any Democrats on, but there are. It's mostly made up of Republicans. Well, so again, who's holding them? Who is the person's? That's our job. We can go back to our colleagues and want answers. That's our job to say, okay, we want this. And if we can't get it from them, we keep going higher until somebody does an investigation and somebody says this accountability has to be answered. Representative Scott, I'll shoot it to you.
I think that's Lee Cox, Wilcox.
You're on mute, Representative Scott.
Let me ask you a question while they're doing it. How can we get we know the Republicans is controlling this thing. How can we get Democrats, and they don't have to be Democrats, just some good people to be the watchdog for these prison systems?
Well, I think what we do is continue to do what we're doing now, is we have the conversations, we have the hearings, so that we start bringing all of the stories public. You have to start putting this out so that people that hear it, and I remember, I know what you said that yeah, there's some people that believe they need to be here. Let's take that out of the question of whether they should or should not be here. Let's talk about just the human value.
Absolutely.
So I think that I know what has to happen is, as Representative Scott, myself, Representative McLaurin, as we are a part of this this commission that, or I would say a caucus, a committee that the House Democrats have set up. It's engaging with them to make sure that everybody's on one accord and moving forward to say, these are the pieces of legislation that we need to write to put in place something like the the Prison Reform Accountability Act. So that's what we have to do, is we have to
like the way you're talking. And thank you. Mr. Wilcox is going to chime in. He's going to call in. But the way you describing this thing sound like a third world country in the prison system.
Oh, it is.
I didn't been down, and I didn't been to, I'm not trying to throw them under the bus, but I've been down there to Mexico, down there across the border in San Isidro and Tijuana, and they ain't living like that. And it's awful, but they ain't living like that. Thank you, Mr. Wilcox, for calling in. You want to tell us a little bit about it? Because I met you on Facebook, and we had a conversation about this. This is how me and Mr. Wilcox met.
Yes. After I retired, I started looking at criminal justice issues after the George Floyd issue. And I looked and I saw prisons were an underserved area. And that's what got me looking and trying to find out what's going on. And when you talk about it being like a third world country, banana republic, that's what it is. You've got people that can do what they want to do because they know there's nobody that's going to do any oversight.
Right.
They could care less about the offenders. As a matter of fact, it almost seems like how the second tobacco ban that they have in now, they knew what was going to happen because they had one previously and got rid of it. They knew it was going to increase gang activity. They knew it was going to degrade the security of the prisons, but they went ahead and did it anyway. And it's almost like they're seeing it as job security to make sure they program the offenders to fail, that they make sure the offenders are angry and bitter and upset by living in these subhuman conditions where they're treated subhuman, as if they don't matter. Their food is given to them cold. The portions are wrong. It's not properly cooked. Their housing, I get so many reports that when it rains, that it's flooded. If somebody puts too much toilet paper in the toilet, the whole building backs up and there's sewer all through. It's just crazy when I hear all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And there are prisoners who try to bring attention to it and try to do something, but their only recourse is a federal lawsuit, which is only U.S. constitutional issues. And a lot of things don't rise to that. Or they can try a state court action, which is going to cost them $350. And then they're going to run into a procedural system that's designed for trained lawyers that they just can't handle.
Okay,
But if they
thanks.
can go before the Office of State Administrative Hearings, though that's designed for the layman, that should work and help to bring accountability, change the culture, and change the environment.
So here's my question, representatives. How long has this bill been, or I know we're trying to get this through now, correct? We're trying to get this passed. But how long of a process will this be? And will this be something that will be brought forth at the beginning of the session in January? Or is this something that will probably be the last thing at sign and dine? How likely is it that this will make it through both chambers?
I don't expect this bill to go anywhere this year. I mean, it takes at least 6 to 8 years to get a bill passed in the General Assembly. Okay, so
is this always?
Bill, 90% of the time.
Okay, so this is a whole nother. This will have to be a show on my show because that's a whole nother conversation right there. I'm trying to understand.
Let's be clear. We're Democrats. We're in the minority. Our bills don't get.
Well, no, I get that, but I just want to make sure I understand, and maybe I want to make sure I heard this right. 8 years to get a bill passed in our assembly?
Of this magnitude, yeah. Wow. It's not going to be a bill that will fly through. Now, there are some bills. Let me be clear. Where this bill is now, we want to make sure that the wording is correct, that we're getting exactly what we need. So we're working with all advocates to make sure that when this bill goes in there, because what they will do, the Republicans, is gut your bill and reach. So it's going to come back if it even gets a hearing. We've got to get some Republican sponsors on this bill. So it's got to be a bipartisan bill that has to
fight.
Representative, let me ask you something. Okay.
People think on the outside, they look in and they say, okay, the problem is going on. You got to get in there and fix it. But you have to understand the process it takes to fix a bill. It's not just I see the immediate. Yes, I am concerned like every family member that I get about their loved ones dying, not getting their medication, all of the barriers. But understand the system you have to go through the process. The bill is not going to go anywhere if it's not correct. The bill is not going to get a hearing if we don't have bipartisan support. The bill is not going to, move any place until all of these measures. And that's what my colleagues and I are writing the legislation, working with Leg Council, working with the advocacy group to move the process. If the bill gets introduced this session, that's fine. We're going to do everything we can to get it introduced. But the reality of how long this is going to take is not going to take in one session.
So you saying it take 8 years. So it reminds me of the Foreign Industrial Bill that we were fighting. It took just about that long to get it through both the House and the Senate. Is that correct, Representative Schofield?
Yes, it is. Representative Scott, are you still here? You can speak to this.
Well, it takes the bill a long time, but hopefully with bipartisan support on a bill like this, it may not take as long. You just have to push the metal and get bipartisan support on the bill. And then it may not take that long. Everything has its cycle. If you get them and they're inspired by it, if we could get bipartisan support, and definitely the chairman of the committee and where the bill will be going, you have great. It will be great. Then that your bill will make it through. But at the end of the day, it can take a long time to get big bills through. But a bill like this, hopefully, they will see the need that this is just human rights issues that we're talking about. We're not talking about letting people out free. We're not talking about going in just tearing the prison down. We're talking about basic human rights that people need to be afforded. We know
Right.
that people.
How many times?
We know that, we just talking about basic human rights that should be taken into consideration, should be done without questions. We know that we will not want to live. If our bathrooms flooded today, we're going to have a plumber out here today to make sure that it is cleaned up, because we're not going to be walking around in that mess.
Let me ask you a question, and I'm sorry to cut you off, Representative Scott, because I know we want to get a lot in, and we got like 30 minutes. We're talking, and I'm gonna go to Joe after this. We're talking about just how they treat human beings. What happens if this person dies in prison? Do the prison send these bodies back home and bury them, or is that burden left on the families?
Well, family, you're gonna have to bury your own.
So you tell me, if I die in prison, my family got to go get a GoFund to get my body out of that prison system if we don't have insurance?
Yes.
Wow.
Or they can just leave it as an indigent and let the local county, wherever the prison's at, bury them in a pauper's grave.
Yes.
Wow. Wow. Come on, Joe, give me, wow.
So this is, you all have just.
Y'all have blown my mind.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So here's my question. How many times prior to this has a bill of this magnitude or a bill something similar to this been introduced to the Assembly?
This is my first time. Go ahead.
So no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we really don't know how many bills have been introduced like this in the past, dealing with basic human rights in the prison. I have no knowledge of have one ever been introduced or not, but
so what's currently there then? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, forgive me if what's currently in place then?
Basic human rights, is currently there for all systems. We know that it's just basic things that need to be done. Basic things that need to be done should be in place in all facilities. But we see the need here that we need to make sure that we have accountability. We need to make sure that we have everything documented in this legislation to make sure that going forward, we have what we need, and that we receive reports, and that we have a commission to go out and inspect these prison systems to make sure that they are up to standard and up to code, and that people are given their basic human rights. All we want is people to be treated like people.
Listen, I agree with you 100% on that. How much media coverage, or how much just how much coverage in general or attention is being brought to this issue? Let me tell you, I like a good, march and a good session that I can get my feet entrenched in and be a part of. So have there been any marches to or protests dealing with the prison board? I mean, prior to you ladies getting involved in this, who has been doing anything for this, I guess, is what I'm trying to understand.
Wilcox, are you?
You can go Representative Schofield, and then we go to Wilcox.
Well, I was going to turn it over to him because, again,
we
came to this space. We came to this space because we were asked. Now, you asked about, what's being done. Look at what the Department of Justice is doing. So we do stuff behind the scenes. We're legislators. So ours is about the policy end of it. We both come from an advocate background. So the marches and the advocacy efforts, we leave that to the grassroots because we're on the inside. So I got to infiltrate the system on the inside. On the outside is where, but we saw right off the bat that our work and this attention being done got the attention of the Department of Justice right now. And we're going to stay on them to find out what have they found out, what recommendations, and hold them accountable to find out, okay, when are these going to be implemented and when should we expect to see a change? So, everybody has a lane and a part to play. Ours as legislators are policy.
Real quick, I know we're going to go to Mr. Wilcox, but when you say what Department of Justice, Georgia, or we're talking about federal?
So federal came in because Georgia Department ain't doing what they need to do. We had to get the feds involved. We're not stopping. It's like if you are minding the hen house and you controlling all things, what am I going to ask you about what's going wrong in your department? Right. I got to bring in bigger, better, bolder. That's what we have to do. And we start at the top, and we're going to keep going until we get some resolve on this.
How is the federal? Are they cooperating with you guys?
Yeah, they're doing what they need to do in their investigative space. We're not giving them. They are taking the space. They're doing what we need done, and then we'll all sit back down at the table to find out what's recommendations, what things need to be improved upon. We will still submit our bill to make sure that going forth that the measure is sealed on. We bookended on everything, and then we're gonna see what happens. We're not on a wait and see posture, but everybody has to. We brought them in to do X. Let them do X while we're doing Y. And the advocates do Z.
I like that. Let me give Miss Kate the chance to unmute, please, to talk. And I'm gonna apologize. We had so many emails going, and she got caught up in the shuffle. How you doing, Miss Kate? We're talking about this policy. So could you give us a little perspective? We talked about the human, how they living in filth and the food. So give us a little piece what you've been dealing with it and looking into.
Well, in fact, yesterday we had a meeting. It was a photo shoot for a campaign we're launching called If Moms Ran Prisons. And the mothers that we had attend are all mothers that have a child incarcerated. Three of my moms were the three children. Stephanie Lee, her son was murdered. Jennifer Bradley, her son was murdered. And the newest one is Helen Nelson, and her son's even more tragic than the other two guys. Hamby's his last name. He was not only murdered, I'm gonna be really, I hate to even say what I have to say, but these are facts. He was tortured, beaten, raped, drugged. He went in at 250 pounds. When he died, he weighed 120 pounds. This facility, Central State Prison, is where my son lived for 3.5 years. Used to be a fairly safe facility. It's just gone down the tubes like all of them. Matter of fact, that's the second murder at Central State. But it's the murders, it's the lack of resources and information. We can't even make a phone call to say, hey, my person's sick or my person needs help. So the calls to the NIA are coming in droves. The calls to you guys are coming in droves. You feel it. We all feel it. I attended a Board of Corrections meeting on Thursday. That's the Board of Corrections for Department of Corrections. It's really a very non-efficient. In fact, I highly recommend you all attend next month. And I don't think they'll cancel it because I heard they're having a photo shoot, but they didn't even bring up the Department of Justice investigation at that meeting. They talked a lot of the fluff stuff. They said some interesting things. I took a lot of good notes and I'll share it with all of you. But I think Timothy Ward is backpedaling a lot. He can't say a lot. He's under investigation. Not only that, I'm sure Governor Kemp has got him quieted on a lot of fronts. But the things that are going on in the facilities, Phillips, there was just a fentanyl overdose in Phillips about 3 days ago.
Let me ask you, where's Phillips at? Because I'm not, what prison is that?
Phillips in Beaufort, up in Beaufort, Georgia, Gwinnett County. So
this is right at our back door.
It's right there. And Phillips is a large facility, but I get a lot of calls from them. They have a lot of mental health in Phillips, level 4 and level 5. There's been a lot of problems with rape at Phillips. The drugs are vicious. Then another mother told me her son just entered the RSAT, which is the Resident Substance Abuse and Treatment Program in the Department of Corrections. He went to the one in Coastal and he's doing drugs in the program. She says he's worse than he was before.
Wow.
So
who investigates? I'm sorry. Who investigates the murders, the rapes, the drug abuse? Who investigates that?
I believe it would just be the whatever county they're in. That sheriff's department or that police. I'm not sure exactly. It's not internal. They do have an OPS, Office of Professional Standards, and they do have investigative units internally. But what I hear from families, they're just really not getting any information. I mean, they don't even call to tell you when your person died, much less tell you what the investigation is.
Right.
So
let me ask you a question. You saying that the local sheriff or police department, just imagine, and I just thought about this, and I'm gonna use my county. If Fulton County right now have folks sleeping on the floor and have things that they can't, how would they investigate something in the prison system?
I mean, I'm not sure how the order goes, but I mean, my son died in East Point and they can't even investigate his death. And that was in the free world. So much less in the incarcerated
I
world.
know.
It's a lot.
This is Wilcox. I know in the prisons, if there's suspected foul play, the GBI is supposed to come in and do a general overview. And if they feel that further investigation is necessary, they can do it at their choice.
Mr. Wilcox, what does that mean? General overview. What does that mean?
Well, they're supposed to take fingernail scrapings, pictures of the body, and that's about it. If they feel that maybe there could have been rape involved, do a rape kit, and then they send that off to the lab and then decide whether it warrants more investigation or not.
So what do they do with the person if they discover that somebody has been raped and they find the person who did, whether they move them to another cell? What happens? I don't understand how that works.
The department has very bad history with separating people who hurt and maim and rape others. They tend to put them right back in. Sometimes a man will be raped, he'll be proven as raped, and the person he raped will get put right back in the cell with him.
Happens.
Wow.
Oh my.
Wow.
So then you have an issue of staffing. So in that space, where you're putting people back, it becomes an issue of staffing and safety. Again, we're looking at this bill to make sure that we have measures in place that take all those things into consideration, which is why we're not just rushing to put something up to say we've done something. It has to be comprehensive. To Kate's point, the number of deaths and murders going on is astronomical. It's unacceptable. And there are mothers that are still waiting to get a call to say that their sons are dead. This should not happen. The system has been, broken. It's just not been watched properly.
Right.
Yeah. So this is a multifaceted, a multi-layered problem that has been underground for a while.
And what I'm going to say, Representative Schofield, Representative Scott, you guys, I'm sitting here listening to what you're saying, and I just had a flash come across where our governor went down to Texas to talk about an issue on the border. Looked like he got a border problem right here in Georgia. That sounds like something that I would see when I would go to, I wouldn't even see that going across the Tijuana border. And I think, Joe, you've been down that way in the service. So I'm confused. Why haven't Governor Kemp stepped up and said something?
Follow the money.
Well, for that, let me just ask, I definitely, because he's the current one at watch, but why haven't the other governors said anything?
Absolutely.
Follow the money. Governor Deal at least had a version of trying to reform the system. The Department of Correction is not built for correction. It's built to keep people incarcerated so their value becomes more of how much money and labor we can get out of them than to protect them, rehabilitate them, and send them back out.
Wow.
Follow the money.
Wow. Let me ask, and you guys can answer this. What are the top 3 areas where we should focus on as it relates to prison reforms?
Gosh, there's like 43 things.
43.
The top 43 things. The top 3 things. Gosh. I think this Accountability and Corrections Act is extremely a priority to really start holding people accountable for systems, accountable for actions or inactions. I think that's a priority, legislatively speaking. I think that we can get that thing off the ground somehow. I'm not the political person in my team, but I get it. I think also just focusing on the laws of sentencing laws. These are too big right now, but like we have to change sentencing laws. We have to stop with mandatory minimum sentencing. It doesn't make sense. We have to stop locking up people that are mentally ill or have substance use disorder. So mental health is a priority, really, in criminal justice reform. Focusing on mental health, mental wellness, and substance use disorder, and then reentry. Because what we're seeing now, the 3-year recidivist thing is real. I've witnessed it with my own son. He died within 3 years. He would have gone back to prison if he didn't die with his behaviors. So, but we're seeing it with lots and lots of families now because we've been doing the work long enough. And so the reentry barriers and the fact that these people have trauma from being incarcerated, they're coming home sicker than when they went in. They're coming home more dangerous. This is a public health and a public safety issue that are all of the politicians talk about. So how do we not look at reentry as a public health and public safety initiative?
Right.
And get more resources to these people coming home and their families. And those are my 3, if that made sense.
Let me say this. This is such a hot topic, and I've learned so much. I have kin folks that's incarcerated, and some is repeat offenders. And what I look at it now is something mental is going on, because I just can't fathom how people just want to go to prison and jail day after day. What I want to do is, since this is such a hot topic, the bill won't be addressed in the dome this year.
Right. We don't know that.
You guys,
we don't know that. We're going to push.
Okay. Well, I know if you got anything to do with it, something's going to happen. But let us have you guys come back after that session, 40-day session, and let's talk again. I'm going to put y'all on the schedule. Let's come back, because we're wrapping up, because this is something I want to get on. Do you agree with me, Flint?
Listen, I want to talk about this even more. Yeah. I'm just floored by the information that has been provided for me today, and it's making me want to do more research on it.
Absolutely. And let me ask you. This is a question that we got from Facebook. How are we going to deal with the victims of crime? Is there such thing as self-sentencing? Why should the taxpayer have to make accommodations for murders?
Lord.
We're gonna go with Kate. You want to start with that? Since you had a son to get killed.
Well,
definitely want to hear.
I hear it all the time. Why should we care about men and women that live in our prisons? They did a crime. They should do their time. Why should we educate them? Well, if we want them, they are coming home. We see it every day. Those people that are the repeat offenders that keep cycling through, they're people that are damaged and further damaged and further damaged. So they come home to your neighborhoods more damaged than we went in. But if studies prove that when they are given educational opportunities, when they have support circle around them in the free world, when they are given hope and motivation, that they improve behaviors, therefore they come home safer and healthier and less dangerous to society. So by all we are doing is creating a more dangerous human being. Even my son, who was not a dangerous human being, he came out scared, traumatized, and doing dangerous behaviors that are, that just impacts everybody in the communities that they return to. And, our census just came out and it shows that, the prisons, that's where they live. No, they don't live there. They're not staying where their prisons are. They're going back home to the community where you all live. And we want them to come home, and we want them to come home repaired and restored. Period.
I have 2 questions, Damita, here real quick. Mr. Wilcox or anyone. So we talked very early in the beginning of this about, or someone mentioned the fact that when somebody dies in prison, your family has to pay for it. What I know about a lot of insurance now, unless it's whole life, if you're getting a term life, you got to have some kind of medical exam done. So if I wanted to get that done for my family member, how can I get that done if they're in prison?
You can't
Is that
get
even
life
possible?
insurance. If you're a felon,
I didn't think so.
You can't get.
I didn't think so.
Wow.
And then the follow-up question that I have, which I thought that was the case. Then the follow-up question, when I got out of the military, and anybody that's transitioning out of the military, they have, and I can't think of the name of it right now, but when you're out processing, there are a lot of resources that they're showing you. You're getting out, so this is what you need to do. These are places that are hiring, this is doing that, so on and so forth. Is there any rehabilitation? What is happening to those who are getting out? How are we helping them to re-enter and back into the society?
They give them a $35 card and a bus ticket and say, here's your bag of garbage, good luck. Because your stuff comes up in a white plastic garbage bag.
Wow.
That's it.
Now, there are a number of mini programs that are offshoot programs that do help people. So I don't want to downplay any of the work that they're doing. But here's what we did find, that when they're getting out and they need their medication, sometimes you're giving 3 weeks or 3 days worth of your hypertension medication, and then that's it. Or your diabetes medicine, you're not getting that. So these are issues of real life.
They don't have medical insurance at this point. They don't have anything. There's nothing to take care of.
3 days worth of it, and then you're off any kind of your antipsychotic drugs, your bipolar meds, and now you're going back out. So there's some real issues. Let me just mention real quick that House Bill 678 is a mental health bill. It's the Inmate Mental Health Act that's going to address us using prisons as mental health hospitals. So
Representative Schofield, send that House bill to my email if you don't mind. Okay. And I appreciate it. We're gonna be wrapping up this 10 minutes, and God, I wish we can stay here all day.
This is an all-day topic, Damita. Right, Damita, I just want to jump in one more time. What's being done about COVID? What's being done about AIDS? What's being done about cancer? What's being done about any of these diseases or things that are taking place every day out here? So you can only imagine that this stuff is amplified in a closed space like prison.
And strep, all those things are highly contagious. But here's the real problem. They don't have the resources. I'm talking Department of Corrections does not have the resources that we demand that they have. I've heard lawmakers.
Is that because we don't provide it, or that they're there, they just don't have the people to do it?
They don't have the budget. They don't have the people. Rural prisons don't have people that can get there. Their rural hospitals can't support the community, much less the prison. So there's all that. So Department of Corrections and Department of Community Supervision just don't have enough resources. Now DCS, they get a whole lot of people that they don't need to be supervising. But the laws said you got 20 years on probation. What do we need 20 years for? For some people. So I can't always blame them, because the fact is it's all of us. And we have to put together, we have to support them. And I think Governor Kemp should bring the National Guard to help the prisons, just staffing wise, till we stabilize. And
I agree with you on that. If he can bring the National Guards in to
nursing homes
to look after the Georgia Dome, I'm surely he can call in for that. This is why I think we should hold our elected officials accountable. We need to know who we vote in office. This is why elections are very important. This reason right here, because it's a money trail. You just follow the money. This is a money maker right here to me. Do you agree with me, Lee Cox?
Yes, and one thing I'd like to add, that talking about the money, this is, I share stuff, Democrats, Republicans, everybody. And I'm getting broad support from Republicans on the idea of accountability and transparency. They're really strong on that, and they've been supportive.
Because of the money.
And it's where, we're spending the money, let's make sure we're spending it right.
Right.
So it's because of the money, right?
Right. If you look at Columbus, Georgia is supported by the people that that live in the prisons that are wearing the brown jumpsuits. If you see those guys in brown jumpsuits on the side of the road or in any facility there, the non-paid labor, prison force labor, the city of Columbus, Georgia relies heavily on them for their maintenance, for their public works, for their street crew, all of this stuff. They can't, I think their budget would be broken if we had to pay all those folks. So, it is follow the money in many levels.
And also,
I just want to know, where is it going? Who is taking the money?
Georgia Correctional Industries is the for-profit arm of the Department of Corrections. They have food and farm. They make signs. They make the shoes. They milk the cows. I don't know where that money goes. The taxpayers don't get it.
Let me ask you guys a question, and I know y'all got to go back to the dome, Representative Scott and Representative Schofield, but let me just ask the question, and Flint, you can say I'm wrong. My understanding that Governor Kemp got a lot of farmland down there in Athens, somewhere down there. Do he have our prison folks down there working his farms? You can say yes or no, or you don't know.
I have no idea. I have no idea.
I wouldn't think he'd be that obvious.
Okay.
I know that Governor Senator Perdue had people using his farmland down in Perry, Georgia. I know that people were doing stuff for them. I know that for a fact. They took money from the education budget to resod a horse barn down in Perry, Georgia for him. These people, y'all have to forgive me. My attitude has changed.
That's why we need this bill. And this is not the only system that we know is doing these kind of things. So, we're starting small, but we're going to get you one by one. We're going to get it done. This stuff, Joe, you shaking your head. Imagine when you walk in and find out. And how long this has just been going on?
Right. I'll probably get locked up if I go, because I'm fighting everybody going in there, looking at. I'm a veteran with PTSD, so they probably immediately throw me away.
and look, they'll probably throw me away because they're gonna say, "Oh, we know she crazy." We gonna be wrapping this thing up. We probably got 2, maybe 3 minutes. First, I want to thank you guys for coming. I'm going to put you guys back on next year after Under the Dome, and we're going to talk about this again and see how far we have met. You have left me speechless. So, and I hope some of my folks that's incarcerated folks listen to this, because we need to keep them out. I want to know why they keep trying to go back there.
Damita, if I can just jump off your trampoline here, ladies and gentlemen, when we get a chance, I would like to bring you on the People's Choice so we can talk a little bit more about it. It's so important. So important. Yes. Yes.
So if you, I'm gonna give Mr. Flint your emails and let him come on, and then we got another person that would love to handle this, and that's Mr. Carter. He was a watchdog for the Philadelphia police. So I'm gonna connect y'all together. I almost think
that we need to have a special session for this, because I can think of Dr. Wanzo being involved in this as well.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. So we're gonna get with the producers. So in closing, I'm gonna let start Representative Schofield, and I'm gonna give you 2 seconds, and we're gonna go on down to the next person. Come on, Representative Schofield.
Thank you. My closing remarks are simply, we are in this space because we took an oath. We took an oath for oversight, accountability, transparency, and honesty. That's our oath. And we are committed to making sure that we get this done through this penal system. Stay engaged, stay involved, and create the space where these stories will be heard. We've got to be vocal.
Absolutely. If you don't mind, next one, could you guys put your emails in the chat for us? Miss Kate?
Well, I just appreciate you all caring enough to start this help with the movement. We will be hosting a press conference. You'll all be invited.
Okay.
And we're here to support. We have thousands of families here that are constituents that care about this and need your help. So I thank you from them.
Representative Scott.
I know I don't know if my computer is gone out. Zoom not responding. So my computer. Okay. I would just like to say to the audience, and first, thank you all for the show. Just know that we are going to do all that we can to make sure that the people that are incarcerated are treated with decency and respect. We're not trying to break people out of jail. We want them to just be treated with human decency. So therefore, we're putting forth the legislation for accountability and transparency. Stay tuned.
Thank you so much. Mr. Lee Cox.
Yes, and my last word would be, everybody listening, yes, nod your head. This is good. We need to work on it, but talk to your friends, your neighbors, people at church, your representatives, your senators, your pastors, the people you meet in the grocery line. Tell them about what's happening and let them know it has to be. We all need to be Paul Revere's on this issue.
Absolutely.
That's good.
We got 30 seconds, and I already said, so Joe, you want to take it on out?
Listen, I'm just grateful for this opportunity, Damita, that you included me on this conversation.
Thank
And
you.
again, like you, I am speechless. But this is a conversation that has to continue. You know, it's unfortunate
Absolutely.
that there are a lot of things that are happening behind the scene that we just don't know about, because this is not our specific lane, but this is our lane because we have family members, friends, and somebody, whether you want to admit it or not, may be in the prison system.
Absolutely.
And so if they're being treated like subhuman individuals, that's definitely not what we want to see. So thank you guys for coming on and sharing this information with us, and we'll definitely be in touch.
And again, I want to thank you guys for coming to take a stand. We're going to be watching, and we're going to get with you guys. I'm going to hook you up with Joe so you can get on the People's Choice, because we need to keep this going. We need this bill to pass. I know it takes time under the gold dome, but I'm confident if you got Representative Schofield and Representative Sandra Scott on there, it's going to get passed. Let me tell you, I've seen them two in action, and they ain't nothing to play with. So again, I want to thank you for coming. Mr. Carter's show is Issues and Answers. So we're going to hook you guys up, because we need to keep this going, because just what you said today have just blown my mind altogether. Again, I want to thank you guys for coming. Have a good day. Kate, we're going to make sure that it won't be no mix up the next time. Again, thank you guys so much for coming out today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.